All right, what's up, friends? It's Mike D, also go by Maduric in the gaming communities. And in this video, I wanted to do a review in talking about all of the products that I've upgraded my sim racing rig to. So we're going to be talking about the Fanatec line of steering wheel and pedals that I got into, and then also the Six Sigma racing chassis and cockpit. So I've been on the Fanatec gear now for a couple weeks, and I wanted to talk about that and also the Six Sigma setup and talk about how these have both improved my skills in sim racing, but also my enjoyment and what I've experienced on being on these higher products. And then I'll also walk around and show you my setup as I've dialed it in a bit more. And then we'll get plugged in at the end and do a little screen share and show some racing. So let's dig in. All right, so I'm going to walk around the camera to kind of highlight the products that I got into and talk about them so you could see a little bit better. First off, though, what I'm going to do is talk about where I came from. So here's the Logic G29 wheel and pedals. So that was the pedal and wheel setup I was on, and then this is the chassis it was all on, which is called the Open Wheeler. It's a pretty standard entry-level chassis, which gets the job done just fine. You're able to attach the pedals to there, get your steering wheel on there, and then the seat went on there. So very simple design, and I picked all that up for I think $300 used locally. So what I'm into now is the chassis is by the company called Six Sigma, and this is their 6S80, which is basically their entry-level or lower line chassis. This whole setup was about $500. Black Friday deal, so I've only had this for a few days, but it is amazing. The biggest thing that I'll talk about first on the chassis and why I think it's so important, and I saw a lot of other reviewers talk about this as well, is that where you want to spend your money first, and I do agree with this, is a chassis. It's what all your gear gets attached to. So you want something that's going to be adjustable, but also very stiff. The biggest thing that made an instant difference when I got on this thing was how all of your feedback and your moves and everything, are just direct. When you have flex, and let's say you're using a brake and you push into that brake, and then because you have maybe a flimsy chassis, all that pressure doesn't go into the brake, it goes into the seat, it gets bent around and so forth. Same thing with the steering wheel. If you're got a lot of torque or you're just trying to turn things and it is not a really great rig, it's going to get sloppy, and that affects how accurate your racing is. So this is just a really awesome design. It took me about 3 hours to put together. Super fun build. I like building these things. Everything's on track. So, all of these things are just bolts that you loosen up and you just slide everything up or down to get everything dialed in. Even the foot tray can move around up and down, so you could really dial in the setup that is ergonomically best for you. I also got the extra mouse pad, which is amazing. And I also attached a microphone to this too, because I hate wearing headsets and I like good audio. So anyway, so that's the chassis. I'll talk more about it as we go. Now the wheel and pedal setup, I went with the Fanatec CSL DD. So this is the direct drive motor, and I got the boost kit, which is basically just a bigger power pack. And so this puts out 8 Newton meters of torque, and that's a huge new number that I pay attention to now, because basically it's just how much feedback you get and how strong the motor will be when you have resistance. And that's what really brings in a more lifelike feel. The standard motor is 5 Newton meters, $100 more does the boost kit up to 8, and that's been great. I could see why the higher end models will get into like 15 to 20 Newton meters of torque. At some point it just becomes too much, but it is nice having a bunch of torque because it does really help you feel the racing experience and the road a lot better. The wheel is the McLaren GT3, the V2 model. This thing is amazing. That was only $200, and everyone that has reviewed it gives it nothing but like shining reviews, especially for the price point. Super fun to use. I just really can't say enough about it. You got plenty of buttons and knobs to assign to everything. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's got a quick release here, so this guy just comes off, and you just turn it and pops right off if you need to change a wheel. The other amazing thing about this wheel is that it's got both a clutch, it's got the shifters, your magnetic shifters, but then it also has analog paddles on each side. And so what I've done there is assign those to the clutch on this side and the handbrake on that side. So I like a simple setup with just 2 pedals. And because of this wheel, you have the ability to also have your clutch and a handbrake if you need it for games. So, and also this thing is fully Xbox compatible. So I'm not on any boxes or anything like that. I'm on full PC. So, but for those of you that are into Xbox, fully compatible. So the pedals are the CSL Elite version 2s. And again, nothing but amazing reviews for the price points that you're getting into these for. This is, in the brake on this, which is this guy, obviously here, is what they call a load cell brake, all right? And keep in mind, I'm still consider myself a beginner in this whole world, so if some of these things are obvious, my apologies. But, and it does come with a clutch too, that I took this off because I don't really use a clutch on my feet. I don't really use it at all because I'm all in the paddle shifters. And just to kind of get better physics on the way I like to sit, but all of this stuff is movable. So basically, you know, you could take the strip off, move the pedals wherever you want, and again, you could take them off if you want. Everything connects on the bottom. The other thing cool is about this chassis, as you can see, you know, I can do some really neat, clean wiring. I'm a fanatic for making things neat and clean with wires, because in my recording studio here, there are wires everywhere. So really easy to kind of hide up all the wiring and so forth. So that is all of the gear, and then I moved the seat over from my previous rig onto this one. I might upgrade it at some point, but you know, it feels great. There's a little flex in it, but not much. So that is all of the gear. I'm going to talk about why I like it in a second. I'll quickly show over to where this all fits into. So this is, or was, and still is, my vocal booth for my recording studio. And I just converted it to being the sim racing rig. Now, this is only 3.5 feet wide by 5 feet deep. So it's a very small space, but it works and fits perfectly. So I mounted my main monitor, 32-inch LG, to the wall. It's on a hydraulic there, so you can move it up or down. And then I have a separate video screen up there for doing other things. It's got my DSLR camera for streaming hidden in the corner there. We got some headphones if we need it. Also, the Six Sigma chassis does have a keyboard tray attachment that I'll probably get to, so that I could easily have that right next to me. So that's where all that goes in. And the other thing too is that I did get the casters for the Six Sigma, because that way I could just slide this thing in and out. It's so easy. If I need to do a vocal session, you know, I could just wheel it right out and I'm good to go. So that's all the gear. Now let me just talk about what I've experienced in using it. Okay, so now let's talk about the gear itself and what I think of it. So we'll start with the wheel and the motor, and I absolutely love it. Coming from the Logitech G29, everything's just, you know, leaps and bounds better. This being a direct drive motor versus a belt-driven motor on the Logitech, everything is just super, super smooth. You know, there's no mechanical things going on. It's just a motor, and the tension is created by that motor. So you have a more direct connection to what the game is doing in terms of force feedback, track, things on the track, hitting rumble strips, all of those things you could really feel, whether it's a vibration or it's, you know, the amount of force it takes to make a turn or so forth. So everything is just way more engaging with something like this. The other thing that I found as far as how it gives you an edge is that it's blowing me away at how minute the little things that you need to do to improve to pick up a 1/10 of a second here, a 1/10 of a second there. You know, when you really get better everything's measured in like tenths of a second. And so all of those little incremental things that you could do to improve your times really makes you just a better, faster racer. And of course it is just way more fun to have this feel of everything. I absolutely love, the yoke style wheel. I'll probably get another wheel. I mean, moving these things, if you have another one, it's as easy as just, popping it off like this. So when you do have another wheel in their lineup, things are very easy to interchange. So it's definitely just made the whole experience more fun. But again, with that more tactile feel, you really are able to predict where and where you're going to go when you turn, how much you need to turn. All of those things are just, you get way more clarity on your driving abilities. All the buttons, I mean, I've only used a couple of them, to be honest, so I'm sure they'll come into play as they get better and need to access more features of the car as you could tune it in real time and so forth. So with the wheel and the motor, just amazing. I could see why, maybe down the line you'd want even stronger motor for torque. But again, I don't think you'd ever need anything more than this. It's just then you're just getting into you could spend any kind of money on most things, and sim racing is no different. So I wouldn't fathom needing anything else just to, be a better racer, maybe improve the experience. So can't say enough good things about these. Now, talking about the pedals, again, I went with an upgrade to the CSL Pros, or the Elite, because again, the reviews I saw had amazing things to say about them, and it was about $100 more to go from that. The entry-level pedals that you get with their lineup are, I think, $80 US, which is the CSL, I forget, it's just the entry level. And that comes with just a throttle and a brake. And the brake is not a load cell. So the load cell pedal, the difference between that and the regular pedal is that the load cell will use a series of cells or cushions, like kind of rubber pads and a spring, to work with a pressure system. So load cell, as I found it to be, is all about the amount of pressure that you push into the pedal for your braking, okay? The opposite end of that is a potentiometer, I believe, where you're not really getting any difference in resistance as you push the pedal down. It's all about where is the pedal, and that will determine and tell the computer how much braking to apply, all right? Now, I'm not a race car driver. I don't race cars in real life, and it's not really an interest to me in real life. So I don't have any experience in a real race car. But as I've found and heard from other people in the community, the ability to have a pressure-based pedal with load cell gives you more consistency. And I've definitely found that to be true and it also helps you control the car better too, because the thing with a potentiometer based is that it's very easy to just slam the brake pedal down full way or full pressure, and it's also very hard to release it evenly. And what that ends up doing is doing a lot of oversteer where you're burning the car out, you're doing fishtailing, and then when you're trying to come off the brake, it's hard to control that as well. So having a load cell pedal really makes a difference in that. It's hard to push down. It really, not coming from anything else, you're really needing to push into it and, use your full body, from the tip of your foot into pushing your back into the seat. And again, though, that is what's going to help you be consistent. It's also a good reason why I said having a rig that doesn't flex is really important, because on the other rig I had, when I would push into the brake with the load cell, I could feel everything moving, not just the pedal, but the seat would creak back, you could feel the rig twist a little bit, and all of that pressure didn't go right into the pedal, it went dispersed out into the rig. So again, having a really good, solid chassis helps that a lot. Now, I would say that, if you're getting a setup with a load cell brake, you don't want to just put it on the floor. There's no way that having that on the floor is going to work. The pedal will just go flying and your seat will go flying back. And so if you do upgrade to a load cell brake, I would recommend making sure that you have a nice firm chair and chassis to connect it to. Now, I have seen people talk about upgrading the Logitech setup to where the brake can be very strong and resistant. So there are upgrades out there which will make all that gear still really good and usable. So again, the best stuff that you could have is what you could afford and what you have, right? You're always going to be able to buy more, better stuff. People will not stop making better stuff. So be happy with what you have, max it out, and if you have the means, understand what spending more money is going to do for you. All of these things I'm talking about are what reviewers talked about as the big benefits, and I've definitely found them to be true myself. Again, I only use a throttle and a brake, but with the shifters here, I don't need a clutch, and I do have one though on the analog paddles here for starts. I haven't done actually a lot of racing in a race setting. I do a lot of just time trials and practicing on the tracks that I play. So the clutch isn't really all that useful yet. Some games I do use the handbrake to do, quicker turns and drifts and so forth. So yeah, that's all the stuff to talk about there. And let me think if there's anything else I wanted to mention. Again, the clutch, come to the clutch. I was finding this position here really comfortable, so I just went with the 2 pedals. I did look at a lot of review videos that talk about how to set up, how far to put the wheel, where to set everything up as far as the angles and so forth. So that's about it. Let me get this thing wheeled back into the vocal booth, and we'll plug in and do a little bit of racing and maybe just make a couple last minute comments. All right, so now we're plugged in, we're hooked up, and we're going to do some screen share and show you a little bit of racing. First, I wanted to really quickly show you one of the things that you could do inside the software for Fanatec. So you have the ability to adjust all of the settings. So if I want the force feedback to be a little bit less, I could adjust that here. You have sensitivity on the base and the wheel. You could switch to looking at the steering wheel. You could see, making sure everything is good there. You could adjust the sensitivity. I found that some older games don't automatically talk to or know exactly the sensitivity. So if you want to set this so that it's just like 180 degrees, you could change the sensitivity. Newer games just know where that should be calibrated at, but anything could be calibrated how you want it. You could change what the the clutch and the handbrake levers do. With the pedals, you could practice the brake and throttle. You could change the brake force. So how much force do I need to make it 100%? I always leave that at 50. But just literally like looking at this and practicing what it takes to do 100% braking and getting used to what that feels like is just a way to practice, something to do to get better, just knowing exactly how much muscle it takes, because everything that I'm finding with most things, it's muscle memory, right? So if you want to really get good at something, practicing slow and repetition, train your muscles to know what you want to do when you want to race. So let's get into it. That's just something I wanted to show real quick. Let's jump into Assetto Corsa. So I've been playing Assetto Corsa Competizione. That's what the main games I've been playing a lot. So we're going to do a lap on a track and just have some fun real quick. And that'll kind of round it out. So we should have all our sounds and everything kind of dialed in pretty good at this point. So there we go. All right, so we are going to do Nürburgring. We're in a Ferrari 296 GT3. And this is, so there's a car, here's a track. We're just going to do a practice lap. Start the session, is do one quick lap for fun. So definitely a tricky game. It really has, you got to really work on your skill and your technique. Other games, like I said, I play Grid 2019. I like playing. A lot different though, more of a Sim-K. There's a lot more drifting. It's a lot more aggressive. It's not as realistic. So let's see if we could get a nice clean lap here. And just that repetition of knowing the track really well, knowing how much to brake, knowing what gear to be in, and every corner, all those things are really what I'm finding is just takes time and practice, but super fun to get good at. And it's also, a nice flow to it too. I really love flow sports and flow activities. And I'm finding that, you know, once you get better and really get to know a track, you can really kind of get in that flow of just, you know, of grinding away at it. And that's also something that the better gear really helps. You know, you can just feel it, you know, the way everything kind of kicks back at you, and you can just feel the track and road a lot better. And I also started off, you know, in automatic mode, and then I switched over to manual shifters once I kind of got more comfortable with the basics. And then same thing with the ideal line. So they have the racing line in all these games. I stopped using that not too long ago just because, you know, it's just a hindrance after a while. It does help when you're first learning, especially if it's a new track, but it's fun to get better and let go of all of the assists that they do give you. And you know, you can get down to everything from having realistic tire wear and everything else. So there you go. Ooh. So anytime I'm on those rumble strips on the side of the course, you can really feel it, you know, in the wheel. So all these things are really noticeable with the better gear. So anyways, there we go. So all right, so I hope you enjoyed that. I've been having a blast, and if you have any questions, you know, leave comments and questions in the video below, and I'll definitely answer them. And yeah, let me know if there's anything else you want to know, and I'll do some more videos. And next up is hopefully Wilder World and playing Midnight in Miami. So super excited about that. In the meantime, like I said, just getting ready for that, getting better equipment, getting good at the equipment, and that's it. So Maduric out. We'll see you guys soon.